Welcome back to Classic Nostalgia Shows, the podcast where we celebrate the unforgettable movies, television shows, actors, and stories that helped shape the golden age of entertainment.
And if you're like us and you absolutely live for classic westerns, vintage television, old Hollywood, and just diving deep into forgotten film history and the stars who became absolute legends, then you have definitely come to the right place today.
You know it, Annie. Today's episode is taking us on a real journey, way back to a time when the American frontier wasn't just a historical footnote, it actually ruled television.
I mean, it's hard to imagine now, but there was a period when almost every single network featured cowboys. You'd switch channels and there they were, riding across the screen.
Absolutely. Families would gather together every week. It was a ritual to watch their heroes ride across that open range, solving problems, living lives of honor. Television westerns weren't simply popular then, they were, without a doubt, America's favorite form of entertainment.
It's so wild to think about. Today, that level of genre domination just seems impossible. But during the late 1950s, more than half of television's highest-rated programs, John, were westerns. Can you believe that?
It's incredible. Cowboy hats filled toy stores. Cap guns became every child's absolute favorite Christmas gift. These Western stars, they weren't just actors. They became bona fide household names. The Old West lived again, not on the actual frontier, but right there, in living rooms across America.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today, the lost era of TV westerns. We're going to explore how they captured hearts, who those first iconic figures were, and what made them so enduring.
So let's saddle up, everyone. Let's ride back into one of television's greatest and most influential chapters.
So, to really understand why westerns took off like they did, we have to look at the landscape of America right after World War II. The country was changing, dramatically.
Oh, completely. Families were making this huge shift, moving out of the cities and into the brand new suburbs. And of course, television sets were entering millions upon millions of homes for the very first time. It was a whole new world.
Exactly. And people, after such a tumultuous global conflict, they weren't just looking for entertainment. They were looking for something more. They craved stories filled with hope, with adventure, with a clear sense of honor.
And honestly, they wanted simple ideas about right and wrong. The world had gotten so complicated, and these shows offered a clarity, a moral compass that was incredibly appealing. Westerns delivered exactly that, didn't they?
They absolutely did. The frontier itself as a concept, it represented so much. It was freedom, pure and simple. It was justice, courage in the face of adversity, and, perhaps most importantly for many, the idea of second chances.
That's a huge point, the second chances. You could go west, reinvent yourself, start anew. And week after week, viewers got to vicariously escape their crowded, rapidly modernizing cities. They traveled to these wide-open landscapes, where problems, as you said, could often be solved with honesty, with pure determination, and just raw bravery. It was an aspirational fantasy.
It truly was. It offered a kind of moral clarity that people really resonated with. The challenges were physical, yes, but often the biggest battles were internal or ethical.
And when we talk about those early heroes, some of them truly became legends almost overnight. I mean, you can't talk about early TV westerns without bringing up the Lone Ranger.
Oh, no way. He was already famous, of course, from radio, before he even galloped onto television screens. But his silver bullets, his faithful companion Tonto, and that utterly unforgettable theme music, you can hear it now, can't you? They just cemented him as one of America's greatest heroes. Hi-yo, Silver, away!
You can practically hear the hoofbeats. And then, not long after, came Hopalong Cassidy. He was another huge one, but his story was a little different. Many movie cowboys had their moment, but Hopalong's television success created something we hadn't quite seen before, an absolute explosion of merchandise.
It was insane, wasn't it? I mean, we're talking lunchboxes, comic books, actual bicycles, toy guns. Children just absolutely wanted to be Hopalong Cassidy.
He wasn't just a character, he became a brand. He was one of television's very first merchandising superstars. It really showed the power of the medium, how it could connect with kids and drive consumer culture in a way radio never quite could. These guys weren't just on screen, they were in every kid's bedroom.
And by the late 1950s, this whole phenomenon, it just exploded. Television entered what many historians now call the Western craze. It wasn't just one or two shows anymore.
No, it was practically an arms race. Every single network wanted a cowboy series. Audiences just couldn't get enough. You had shows like Gunsmoke, Have Gun Will Travel, Wagon Train, Cheyenne, Maverick.
Don't forget Rawhide, the Rifleman, Wanted, Dead or Alive. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Sugarfoot, Masterson, they just absolutely filled television schedules.
It's mind-boggling to think about. Some evenings, families could legitimately choose from 3 or even 4 westerns airing simultaneously on different channels. It's an insane level of genre domination. No other television genre, before or since, has ever commanded that much primetime real estate.
It really hasn't. It speaks to the universal appeal, I think, of those foundational stories we talked about earlier. There was just such a hunger for them.
So we know the stories were exciting, full of action and adventure, which, always draws an audience. But I think there was something deeper, wasn't there, John, that kept audiences coming back week after week?
Absolutely, Annie. It wasn't just the shootouts and the horse chases, though those were great. Westerns offered moral lessons, often in a very clear, digestible way. It was classic good versus evil, honesty versus greed, justice over revenge.
And for kids, it was formative, right? They learned about responsibility, about standing up for what's right. And for adults, they really appreciated the thoughtful storytelling. These weren't just cartoonish adventures.
Not at all. Many Westerns, surprisingly, asked incredibly mature questions. Questions like, can someone truly change for the better? Or, does revenge ever really solve anything in the long run? And, what truly makes a hero?
And the beauty of it was that the answers weren't always simple, were they? There was nuance, there was struggle. It made them compelling dramas, not just escapist fare. You had characters wrestling with their conscience, with difficult situations.
And speaking of mature questions, that brings us to a show that really redefined the genre, Gunsmoke. When Gunsmoke premiered, it felt like television westerns suddenly grew up.
Definitely. Marshal Matt Dillon, played so iconic by James Arness, he wasn't this flawless, two-dimensional hero. He was a complex character. The stories themselves became much more realistic, gritty even for the time.
Exactly. Characters in Gunsmoke often found themselves making incredibly difficult choices. Moral dilemmas replaced simple shootouts as the central conflict. It was less about who fired first and more about the consequences, the justice, the human element.
And the impact was phenomenal. The series remained on television for an astounding 20 years, which, let's be honest, is a remarkable achievement for any show, let alone a Western.
It truly demonstrated that Westerns could be serious drama, not just children's adventure shows. It paved the way for more sophisticated storytelling within the genre, and showed networks that audiences were ready for more than just simple heroics.
Every generation, I think, has its favorite cowboy, right? Like some people grew up admiring Roy Rogers, the king of the cowboys.
And others preferred Gene Autry, the singing cowboy. It's amazing how many different archetypes there were, and how each resonated with different people. Many loved Lucas McCain from the Rifleman with his modified Winchester.
Or they rooted for the cunning, charming Brett Maverick, who sometimes preferred to outsmart rather than outshoot his opponents. And then you had Paladin from Have Gun Will Travel, who was almost like a philosopher gunfighter, which was such a unique take.
He was absolutely fascinating. Each hero possessed truly unique qualities, but if you look at them all, they shared a common thread, didn't they? They all represented integrity, courage, and a deep sense of responsibility.
Values that audiences absolutely admired and wanted to see reflected back at them. It wasn't just about the cool factor of the gunfights, it was about the moral fiber of these characters that made them so memorable and influential.
And if we're talking about heroes and values, few television westerns captured family life better, in my opinion, than Bonanza.
Oh, Bonanza. The Cartwright family living on the Ponderosa Ranch. It was more than just a western, it was a family drama set in the West. Each episode blended adventure with incredibly heartfelt storytelling.
And the opening credits, Annie, they became iconic. That map bursting into flames, those galloping horses, the powerful sweeping music, it's ingrained in our cultural memory.
Absolutely. Sunday evenings for millions of families became Bonanza nights. It wasn't simply another television show to watch. It genuinely became a weekly tradition, a gathering around the television.
It really highlights how these shows weren't just individual pieces of entertainment, they were part of the social fabric, something that families shared and talked about. The Ponderosa became almost a second home for viewers.
It's interesting to think about how much of this Old West we saw on screen wasn't actually the Old West at all. Many of those towns we watched weren't real places.
Oh, absolutely. They were elaborate studio backlots. Entire streets were meticulously constructed for filming, complete with saloons, general stores, sheriff's offices. It was an incredible feat of craftsmanship.
And what's even crazier is that the same buildings, the same streets, would often appear in dozens of different series. So one week that particular town might be featured in Gunsmoke.
And then the very next week, it would suddenly transform and become part of Rawhide or some other Western. It was all about careful camera angles and clever set dressing that convinced audiences they were visiting entirely different places, even though it was the same dusty main street.
It's a testament to Hollywood's craftsmanship, isn't it? They made that illusion so believable that you never even questioned it as a viewer. You just bought into the story.
And let's not forget the people who brought these characters to life, Western actors. They worked incredibly hard. I mean, these weren't cushy studio jobs.
Not at all. Long days, often filming outdoors in all sorts of extreme temperatures, whether it was scorching heat or freezing cold. Plus, all the horseback riding, the action scenes, it was demanding physical work.
Many of them became incredibly skilled horsemen through years and years of filming, and some even performed their own riding stunts, which is pretty daring when you think about it.
It really is. And while we, as audiences, admired the heroes and the stars, we also have to remember the hundreds of unsung stunt performers who truly helped create all that amazing action that made Westerns so exciting. They were the ones taking the falls, doing the incredible leaps.
Absolutely. The realism and the excitement of those action sequences were built on the backs of incredibly talented stunt people. They were integral to the magic.
So, thinking about all this, imagine growing up during television's Western boom. It must have meant literally living the frontier every single afternoon.
Oh, without a doubt, Annie. Children played cowboys constantly. Neighborhoods echoed with imaginary horseback adventures. You'd hear kids yelling bang bang or yee-haw.
And the gear, toy rifles, cowboy hats, leather holsters, cap guns, these weren't just toys. They were essential props for recreating those on-screen adventures.
And it wasn't just TV. You had Saturday matinees at the movie theater, comic books dedicated to Western heroes. The Western wasn't simply a form of entertainment for these kids, it became their childhood. It was intertwined with their playtime, their imagination.
It really shaped a generation, didn't it? That sense of adventure, of justice, of rugged individualism, it was all baked into their play and their heroes.
But, as with all things, change eventually came. By the late 1960s, television audiences themselves were changing, and, frankly, the country itself had changed quite a bit.
That's right. New genres started to appear and capture the public's imagination. You had police dramas, medical series, spy adventures, and of course, situation comedies. There was a broader palette of entertainment.
Networks, always looking for the next big thing, believed viewers wanted something different. They started to move away from the tried-and-true Western formula.
And gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, Westerns started to disappear from primetime. Some continued successfully, like Gunsmoke, for a while, but the Great Western era slowly but surely came to an end. It just couldn't sustain that level of dominance anymore.
It really was a shift in cultural tastes, I think. The times were changing, and perhaps the simpler moral narratives didn't resonate as strongly with a more complex, modernizing society.
Even though fewer Westerns are produced today, their influence, I think, remains everywhere, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost subliminal now, but it's there. Modern dramas still explore themes of justice, responsibility, family loyalty, honor, all things that were central to Westerns.
And think about action heroes today. So many of them you can trace their roots directly back to those television cowboys. The lone hero standing up against insurmountable odds, protecting the innocent, the stereotypes, that's pure Western DNA.
Exactly. The storytelling techniques, the narrative structures perfected during television's Western era, continue to inspire filmmakers around the world. It's a blueprint for classic heroism and conflict resolution. You see echoes of it in sci-fi, in superhero movies, everywhere.
So why do you think these series endure, John? Why do new generations keep discovering them?
I think perhaps the greatest reason, Annie, is because they remind us of truly timeless values. Values that, honestly, sometimes feel a little lost in our current world.
Like doing the right thing, even when it's hard, helping your neighbors, keeping your promises no matter what, and especially standing up for those who cannot defend themselves. Those are universal principles.
They absolutely are. The settings may be historical, sure, but the lessons embedded within those stories remain incredibly timeless. That, to me, explains why new generations continue to discover these classic series and fall in love with them. They speak to something fundamental within us.
So, the lost era of TV Westerns wasn't simply just a chapter in television history, was it?
Not at all, John. It truly became part of the fabric of American culture. For nearly 2 decades, cowboys absolutely ruled television.
Families gathered together, heroes inspired children, stories explored courage, justice, compassion, and, ultimately, hope.
And those programs, they continue entertaining audiences to this day, because great storytelling, as we always say, never truly grows old.
Whether your favorite was Bonanza, Gunsmoke, The Lone Ranger, Rawhide, The Rifleman, or maybe another forgotten classic we didn't even get to mention today, the spirit of the television Western absolutely continues riding across our screens.
And here at Classic Nostalgia Shows, we are just so proud to help preserve those memories by bringing these remarkable classics to new generations of viewers.
Thank you so much for joining us for another journey through television history. If you enjoyed today's episode, please, we encourage you to subscribe to Classic Nostalgia Shows for more podcasts celebrating classic westerns, vintage television, old Hollywood, forgotten movies, and all that timeless entertainment that continues to inspire audiences around the world.
Before we ride off into the sunset, we'd absolutely love to hear from you. Which classic TV Western was your favorite, and more importantly, why? Share your memories in the comments below, because your stories are such a vital part of what keeps these classics alive.
Until next time, everyone, keep celebrating the golden age of television. Keep discovering the heroes of yesterday inspired.
And remember, the best Westerns weren't just about the Old West. They were about those timeless values that still matter so much today.
Happy trails, everyone.
We'll see you next time.